Okay, we're gonna get going. I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Good evening, everybody. Today is Monday, July 25th, 2022. My name is Chris Pia, and this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Stratford WPCA meeting. It is 7:07 p.m. I will entertain, for this the second item on the agenda will be an approval of the minutes. I will entertain approval. Mr. O'Brien, do I have a second? Ms. Dancho, any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Chair votes aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 6-0. Next item is the report of the town engineer. Mr. Casey, if we can go through the action items.
The first item is from C.H. Nickerson, a request to extend the contract time by 1 month. He's been waiting for delivery of materials. He got the stairs and the hatches have arrived, and he's installing them now. But the reinforced fiberglass panels are not in yet. They're supposed to come in soon. And he needs another month just to make sure that he can have everything 100% complete. He'll still be substantially complete by the end of the month, but then there'll be another month to actually finalize all the project. So he's requesting a time extension to September 30th.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the extension for C.H. Nickerson to 9/30/22.
Excellent. I'll take a second. Second by Mr. O'Brien. Discussion. Mr. Casey, any cost increase on that due to the extension?
No, there would be no cost increase for Nickerson's time on that.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Chair votes aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 6-0. Mr. Casey.
The next item is related to the time that has passed since the contract was supposed to be completed in February, and now we're talking about September. And the engineer has been, on board, on site, overseeing the construction progress. We talked about soils, contaminated soils that we had to deal with at Riders Lane. That was one major item that, was unexpected, and the engineer had to oversee the testing, oversee the disposal, and the excavation of materials, as you would for contaminated soil. But then just the time that's passed from March to September that the engineer still needs to be on site. So they're requesting an amendment for additional time that some has been expended and some is yet to be expended, of $79,500.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for approval of item 3-2. Mr. Connor? Motion by Mr. Connor. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Sutton. Discussion. So, Mr. Casey, just to summarize this, so time bonds have been invaluable throughout the process. This is just an extension from unpaid work from February through September, you said?
Time has been accumulating since that, and we keep hoping the job will be done, but for one reason or another, it continues not to be. And Riders Lane is the perfect example of
right.
A few other things that have happened. We just recently, I'll report later, on Oak Bluff Pump Station. Things come up and they need more time to complete. Riders Lane, the soils, everything had to stop. We had to, contractor couldn't make progress on that. The engineer had to spend, a lot of time to try to figure out where the contamination was, what the soil classification were, et cetera. And then, as the pump station's been in service, there are, a couple issues that troubleshooting and things that need to be resolved that the engineer is assisting with. So yes, it's important to have the engineer continue on through the end of the project.
Is this within our budget or?
It's within the total project budget.
It is?
Yes.
Okay, and then I'm fine with that. Mr. O'Brien?
John, you mentioned subject to deep approval. Is there a possibility they would not approve?
No, I can't speak for DEEP, but this is a DEEP funded project, so they oversee all the contracts, and every change order that gets approved by you, we send to DEEP for approval before it's executed. So we need their approval to fund it, not necessarily to execute it, but this is going to be funded by the DEP Clean Water Fund funds, so that would be something that they would approve. They've been going to all the job meetings. They're aware of, any issues that are coming up. They're, every 2 weeks we have a job meeting. They're fully aware of where we're at, so I don't expect any problems.
Any other discussion on this line item?
I
Ms.
just have a quick question. This is for time between February and September of this year. Do they foresee potentially going beyond September? Or is this project going to be finished?
No, we barring any unforeseen situations, we expect it to be closed out by September 30th. Tie and bond services would be still on board for warranty work if we need them. If we're not, that doesn't get expended, we get that back.
Any other questions for John on this one? All right, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 6-0. Next one, John?
And at Peck's Mill, there was a grade issue. This has been going on for quite some time, but the ultimate solution is to install a stair at the exterior of the station so that the UI service entrance panel is accessible by UI personnel. So this change order has been submitted to UI for approval so that they're sure that it works for their workers. And this cost would be coming out of the utility allowance that we have within the contract for basically mostly for UI. So it doesn't increase the value of the contract, but it will reduce the credit we get back from the allowance unused. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention. This will probably be, like I said, it doesn't increase the value of the contract, but I wanted to bring it to you for approval.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve that item.
Motion to approve
Ms. Dancho.
item 3.3 for Peck's Mill in the amount of $6,614.02.
Motion by Ms. Dancho. Do I have a second? Second. Seconded by Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion? Any further discussion? I would imagine, John, a little excavation has to be done for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing
For $6
unusual.
grand. That's what I was.
Yeah.
We're not just putting in one step for $6 grand.
No.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, John. We have your report. And was there anything else you just wanted to add just for a quick update?
Yeah, so I mentioned the Oak Bluff pump station. There was an electrical issue. Again, it was an issue that came up. Nobody could quite figure it out. Time bonds, electrical engineers were on site, the contractors, subs, and whatnot. Turns out there was a faulty piece of equipment on the circuit breaker, so they have to order a new circuit breaker. There's a 26-week lead time for the circuit breaker to come in. So the circuit breaker that was there is now bypassed. It was a redundant circuit breaker, so it's not really a requirement by the code, but still we want to have it completed per the spec. So that'll be a piece of work that the contractor will have to come back and fix, and it'll be under warranty, so it won't affect the completion date. But it was an example of what I was talking about, where we still need the technical expertise to problem solve things as they come up.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to Mr. Hyde for a report of the plant superintendent. Do you have just an update, Tom?
On the new business regarding Veolia and Naugatucket Environmental and Synagro, I assume that you've all read the report. Veolia, as you recall, back in March and April, had gone into a rebuild state. We spent an extra $100,000 shipping our material out of state at that time. After they came back online, they notified us that effective July 1st, they would no longer be handling the logistics and the pricing on disposal of sludge products for anyone. What they have done is they have sold their capacity for the incinerator to Synagro. Synagro is growing in this area. They're controlling 4 out of the 6 closest plants in our area, and they have announced a very substantial increase. Based on fuel and based on back practices, and I would say based on that they just bought a bunch of capacity and now control the market. We're still in negotiation on it, but it's looking like it's going to be a sizable increase, potentially between the area of $200,000 and $500,000, which is not in our budget. You know, we had room for a cost of living adjustment of $50,000 or $60,000, but we did not have room for this. And, I am in the interim talking to one of the other facilities. He's not pursuing more business at this time, but our product may be right for his facility, so he's taking a look at it right now to see if there's a better opportunity there. He would not be including the freight portion of it, so I would have to look at that separately. But we are under a deadline of pretty much this coming Sunday. So we're scrambling, still negotiating, and we'll be coming back to you in the near future.
So Tom, just in summary to what I heard, because I know you did talk about this probably 3 months ago, but and I know you'll look at every option out there, but it doesn't sound like there's many.
No, they have. They know what they're doing as they're setting this up, and Synagro controls all or most of the capacity that is going into the plants that are available. And as you try to negotiate with others, if we could deal directly with the plants either won't have the capacity, or the carriers are currently working for Synagro. Our current carrier is working for Synagro, hauling in other places, and they don't really want to cause any disturbances with Synagro. It would could be disruptive to their business, so they're not stepping in the middle of it.
And are other towns experiencing, I would imagine this is going to experience the same thing if they haven't already, because it sounds like, bottom line, sounds like a pure monopoly almost.
That's the term that I would use. And yes, I'm currently talking with MDC in Hartford. They've got a different process. They're one of the larger plants in the state. And he's abundantly aware of what's going on and not particularly fond of it. That's why he's still talking with me. Otherwise, he has no need.
All right. Thank you. I just, Tom had brought it to my attention, so I wanted to bring it to our attention as soon as possible. I know we don't have the numbers yet, but it is what it is. It's significant, but thank you for bringing it up. And when you get those figures in, I know you'll let us know. Is any other questions for Tom on this?
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Shake, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Hyde, so just to piggyback off of what Chairman Pia said, essentially they're monopolizing the market, correct?
Yes.
If you can't say that, then I'll say it. So what body regulates this in terms of rates? Do you know?
Just speaking to the microphone, Tom.
I'm sorry. I would say that it's typically regulated by supply and demand, which is the problem that we're having on right now. There are a few more things going on in the industry that tighten this situation up. The EPA is still passing regulations on things such as PFAS, which are man-made chemicals that are in products that are ending up into the landfills. They end up in the incinerator waste, and so it's becoming harder to find a place to bury this material. You could sometimes bury sludge. There were some options to bury sludge because of the PFAS issues. Those options are also drying up, so the EPA and the DEP would be likely to look at building more incineration. However, the incinerators work if they are at full capacity. If they're not at full capacity, they can't keep them burning. They have to shut them down for a day. It takes a lot of fuel to restart them, so it's in their best interest to keep the market somewhat tight. And at the same time, the big players that would build an incinerator are not eager to do that at this time until they find out what the PFAS regulations are going to be.
Thank you, Mr.
Drives
Hyde.
back to the EPA mainly.
Okay, can I follow up?
Go ahead.
Okay, so in the event that this particular cost would, from what you had just described earlier, sounds like it's maybe 3 to 4 times the amount of what had been budgeted, what would that do to our current rate? Would it affect the rate that we have already set? Would it have to be increased again?
I can't speak for exactly what it would do to the rate. It's significantly larger than the increase that we had put in our budget. It is probably 40 to 60% larger than the actual budget line. So it's not 3 to 4 times, but it is substantial.
Thank you. I just have one more question. Was there any way for us to see that this was going to be what the market was going to reflect in terms of options? We had talked about it lightly, I think, back in March when you had brought it to our attention, but do you know of any other state other than Rhode Island that's dealing with a similar situation where there's municipalities or counties that are also potentially having to deal with this?
Maine's landfills have been closed, so they are hauling to New Hampshire's incinerators. It's not an isolated area. I don't know how widespread it is in the country because I've been very diligently looking for a solution close by, because hauling today is not a feasible option for long distances, other than changing our processes to a cake and possibly putting it in a rail car and sending it out to Ohio, such as they were speaking back in March. The current rail car in this area is controlled by Synagro.
Thank you, Tom. Any other questions? Go ahead.
So Tom, I guess the fact that it went out to bid doesn't mean much. It's unlikely we'll get anybody bidding.
That was the only bid we received was Synagros. Nobody else had interest because they don't have to.
Oh, it's already done, the process is done?
Correct.
Okay. Then I seem to remember you mentioned some months ago you were experimenting with something to reduce the amount of sludge and the weight of it. Is that true, or am I thinking of something else?
No, that was true. That was a year or two ago, where we were looking at a centrifuge to try to reduce, increase our solids, reduce the water. That particular piece of equipment did not work out well for us. They determined that our material was a little too fibrous for the centrifuge process. There were other press processes, belt press processes, and out there that I'm starting to look at, that I'm going to be looking at very diligently over the next year, because personally I'm not fond of being controlled quite that tightly. Everybody's going to be looking for other options. And I don't know the time though. It's a lot to do with what we're going to get for regulations.
Well, keep trying and come up with your own system. You'll become a millionaire. You can share it with everybody else.
Yeah.
Thanks,
that's not
Bill.
how my cards play.
Any other questions? So, Tom, thank you for bringing it to our attention. When you guys get the figures back and the hard numbers, obviously you'll go through Renee and then get it up to Dawn in finance and report back to the board in terms of what that's going to look like and what if anything we're going to have to do with the appropriated amount. So, all right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Being there's no old business or new, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Ms. Sutton, do I have a second? Ms. Dancho, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody.